Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a movie review slash compare and contrast for the movie Ready Player One, mainly because Emily and I actually reviewed the book a while ago. You can check that out in case you're interested in seeing like a full length or like a more in-depth book review. But for the purpose of this video, I'll be doing compare and contrast between the movie and the book, as well as like a brief movie review as to what I thought about this movie. So anyways, let's just get into it. So just to start off with the basic summary slash premise of this book slash movie, it is now year 2044, and at this point the world is pretty much at a decline. The movie slash book is pretty much set in this dystopian setting, and at this point of time, the only thing keeping people sane or like communicating with each other is this virtual reality called Oasis, which is created by James Holliday. And when James Holliday died, he basically announced to the world that there are now going to be this Easter egg hunt, and whoever wins and finds this Easter egg will essentially inherit his entire fortune, which is millions and trillions of dollars, as well as his corporation. So the egg hunt is relatively simple. There are 3 keys: the copper, the jade, and the crystal key, and each key will basically unlock a gate. And between each key slash gate, there will be clues that will lead to the next one, as well as these obstacles that you basically have to beat and overcome to get to the next destination. But for 5 years, no one has even found a single key, and the scoreboard has pretty much remained empty until one day. The story then goes on to follow the adventure of Wade Watts, who somehow stumbles and finds the first key and then skyrockets to fame as he becomes the first person on the scoreboard. And then the rest of the book slash movie just follows along his adventure as to how he proceeds to the next key slash gates and how he overcomes all these obstacles. So honestly, I did enjoy this film, but I would say that it was a bit confusing because I read the book previously and the film was so different from the book that for a while in the beginning I was a little confused because I kept rethinking, this happened in the book because I don't remember this happening like this, and I couldn't remember if I just forgot or if I was remembering things incorrectly, and then I realized that the movie and the book were quite different. That being said though, the movie was still really good, at least in my opinion, and it was very fast paced. It was, even though it was 2.5 hours long, which is ridiculously long for a movie. But anyways, that's all I'm going to say for the non-spoiler section. Let's move on to the spoiler section of this video. Okay, so moving on to the actual interesting part of this video, because at the end of the day I really want to compare and contrast between the book and the movie, and there are just so many things that were different from each other that I really want to get into. So first of all, the gates and the keys were very different from the book and the movie. In the book, I remember that there were these keys that essentially unlock these gates, and then between each key and the gate you have to go through another obstacle, and then to get to the key in the beginning you have to go through another obstacle. So basically going through all 3 keys and gates, you technically have to go through 6 obstacles, whereas in the movie it was just keys. There were no gates involved and it was very straightforward. For example, one of the key differences between the book and the movie is actually just the first key. In the movie, for some reason, everyone already knew how to obtain this key. It's just that no one can get to it. It's this race, and for some reason no one has been able to beat this race and get to the finish line to get the key. Whereas in the book, no one was able to find out where the first key was, let alone figure out how to get to it or what to do to obtain it. And it wasn't until Wade Watts realized that, oh, I think it's located in the same virtual reality as his school, and then he was somehow, he stumbled upon this game and he beat the game, and then that's how he was able to get the first key. So the book and movie, it was already vastly different straight off the bat. I also thought that the challenges in the books were much more interesting than the movies. James Holliday was actually in love with the 80s, and because of that, Wade Watts as well as the other Gunters, aka egg hunters, used that as a reference to figure out these clues, and in the process they all fell in love with this era. And using that reference, a lot of the games, movies, and obstacles actually required intensive knowledge of that era. And I think that the book showed that really well with recreating a ton of 80s films, as well as playing perfect games with arcade games, etc. But I think in the movie, I don't think that was really the case, because for example, just getting the first key, it was a car race. I wouldn't consider that as like a real 80s reference. The second key was obtained by recreating the movie The Shining, and the third key was obtained by playing the game Adventure. But that was essentially it. I felt that I mean, okay, Adventure was an 80s theme as well as The Shining, and I guess if you consider like the obstacles in the car race, okay, yes, but I just felt that the book portrayed the 80s thing a lot better. And then moving on to the characters, they all played such different roles. For example, Wade never met up with the others until the really end, whereas in the movie, Artemis actually kidnaps Wade after his trailer was blown up. And then from there, they quickly teamed up with everyone else in real life. I also felt that there was no real background information in terms of Daito and Sho. In the book, they actually begrudgingly met up via these secret chat rooms with Wade, Artemis, and H. But in the movie, they just suddenly popped up and they're just like, hey, we're here, you know, let's team up in real life, which I thought was super bizarre. And another key difference actually was that Daito was actually killed in real life in the book prior to even meeting up. So Daito's role in the movie was way more than his actual role in the book, because in the book, he never showed, I mean, he was a player, you know, on Oasis, but he never showed up. They never saw him, they never met him, and in the movie he actually played a very prominent role. I also thought that Wade's role was actually switched with Artemis because he was the one who actually infiltrated IOI in the book, whereas in the movie Artemis was captured and then she was forced to be one of those like loyalty cell blocks whatever in IOI, and then she became the person inside to kind of infiltrate the company. Ogden's role was actually really different as well. I actually liked him in the movie better because he was a curator, so he actually played a more prominent role, but you didn't know that he was a curator until the really end. Whereas in the book, he was a silent lurker. He was like a glitch essentially. So in the book, there were a few times when they were in these secret chat rooms, like all 5 of them, and then something will happen and they'll be like, what just happened? Like, did you touch that? Someone's like, oh, we didn't touch that. And it turns out that it was Ogden who was like a secret lurker, which I actually thought kind of was funny in the book, but I actually liked his role better in the movie. But honestly, Ogden's role was the only one that I actually preferred in the movie because I actually liked the other characters in the book. They were a lot more realistic. A prominent example actually is the fact that Artemis, H, and Wade were all overweight in the book, which makes sense because they're basically just sitting down and, you know, playing VR. They're not really going out and interacting with people. Though I guess technically if they did some like action stuff in the VR, then perhaps they'll be like really fit. But in the book, they're portrayed as kind of overweight, but that obviously did not get translated into the movie because it's Hollywood. So these are basically the main differences that I noticed between the book and the movie. There are definitely a lot more out there, but I think these are the key ones. So overall, I definitely prefer the book over the movie. I think the characters were better portrayed in the book, and the challenges and obstacles that they had to go through was much more interesting in the book than in the movie. And I also felt that the danger of IOI was much more intense in the book. I mean, they literally threw Daito off a building and pretended it was suicide, whereas in the movie it was more of a comedy when they try to go after all these kids and try to capture them, and they kept failing. So in a way, IOI was more comedic in the movie as opposed to the book. But end of the day, I definitely still enjoy the film. I definitely enjoy the 4DX experience. I would definitely recommend that because this is a very action-packed film, and because of that, the 4DX was so intense. They were like jumping, there were punches. It was like way more intense than the other 4DX experiences that I've had so far. And honestly, end of the day, I would definitely recommend the book if you have not read it yet, because I just think it's better. So that's all I have to say for this movie review / compare and contrast between Ready Player One the movie and Ready Player One the book. And if you disagree with me or agree with anything I have to say, please do let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like this video, do give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's it for today, guys. Thank you. Bye.